The wind howled across the abandoned colony outpost, carrying dust and the faint metallic tang of rusting structures. Human trade had once flourished here, but after the mines dried up, most settlers had packed their things and left. Elias Ward hadn't. The former engineer lived alone now, stubbornly clinging to the remnants of his workshop. Every day, he scavenged, tinkered, and rebuilt old machines, half to keep his hands busy, half to keep the loneliness from swallowing him whole. On this particular evening, he sat bent over a broken generator, grease streaking his hands, when he heard something strange, the faint scraping of metal against metal. His head jerked up. No one else should have been here. He moved quietly, reaching for the wrench at his side like a makeshift weapon. When he rounded the corner of his storage shed, he froze. A figure crouched near the door, its frame thin, wrapped in ragged fabric. At first glance, Elias thought it was another scavenger. But then the head turned toward him, and his breath caught. Two large, glimmering eyes, slanted and luminous, stared back. The alien skin was a pale lavender, faintly glowing under the setting sun. A canary. He remembered them from the trade years. The alien woman clutched a sack of food supplies she'd pulled from a storage bin. Her hands shook, and when Elias stepped forward, she flinched like a cornered animal. "Drop it," Elias said firmly. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. The alien tried to step back, but her knees buckled. The sack slipped from her arms, spilling dried rations onto the ground. She collapsed onto her knees, clutching at her chest as though the weight of the world had finally broken her. Then she whispered, her voice trembling but clear, "My child is hungry." Elias blinked, the wrench lowering a fraction. Not a thief. A mother. She was too weak to resist as he helped her up and guided her inside. Her body trembled with exhaustion, and he realized she hadn't eaten properly in days. He set her down on a chair, slid a bowl of hot broth in front of her, and waited. She hesitated before taking it. Her eyes darted to him suspiciously, as if expecting him to snatch it away at any moment. Only when he gave a small nod did she bring the bowl to her lips. The broth was gone in seconds. She clutched the empty bowl, shoulders heaving, tears slipping down her pale cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. Elias sat opposite her, studying her carefully. "You've got a child?" She nodded. "Hidden in the ruins. I could not carry her and search for food at once." Her voice broke. "I thought if I could just find a little, just enough." Elias leaned back, sighing. A thief was one thing, but a starving child? He couldn't ignore that.
"Show me," he said.
The ruins lay on the far side of the outpost, crumbling concrete and twisted beams marking where homes once stood. The alien woman, her name, he'd learned, was Salith, led him to a collapsed shelter. Inside, bundled beneath scraps of cloth, lay a tiny figure. A child, perhaps 6 or 7 years old by human standards. Her skin was the same pale lavender, her limbs frail, her breathing shallow. Elias knelt down, his chest tightening. The girl's eyes fluttered open weakly, staring at him with fear and longing. "She hasn't eaten in 3 days, Salith said, her voice breaking again. Elias didn't hesitate. He pulled a nutrient bar from his pack and broke it into pieces. "Small bites," he said softly, handing it to Salith. The child nibbled slowly, as though each crumb was precious beyond measure. Elias stood, his jaw tight. "She won't survive like this. Neither will you." Salith bowed her head. "We were left behind when my mate was taken for labor. When the traders left, no one cared if we lived." Her words cut deeper than she probably knew. Elias thought of the day the transports left, how everyone he knew had boarded and gone, leaving him stubbornly behind. He had chosen solitude, but for her and her child, solitude had been forced. That night, Elias brought them to his workshop. He gave Saleth a blanket and set the child on a cot. For the first time in weeks, they both slept without fear gnawing at them. But Elias did not sleep. He sat by the generator, staring at the flickering lamp, wrestling with himself. He could keep going alone. He'd been doing it for years. But now he'd seen them, seen the hunger in the child's eyes, the desperation in the mother's plea. Could he really turn away? By morning, the answer was clear. Over the next days, Elias taught Saleth how to repair small machines, showing her how to strip parts from junk and rebuild them into working tools. In return, she shared knowledge of the Canary, plants that grew wild and edible near the cliffs, ways to purify water without filters. Together, they began stockpiling food. The child, whom Saleth called Irel, slowly regained strength. Her cheeks filled out, and she began laughing softly at Elias's clumsy attempts to pronounce Canary words. The sound filled the empty workshop with a warmth Elias hadn't felt in years. One evening, as the three of them sat sharing a modest meal, Saleth's eyes softened. "You did not have to help us," she said quietly. Elias shrugged. "Nobody deserves to starve. Least of all a child." Her gaze lingered on him, shimmering with something unspoken. The fragile peace shattered a week later. A group of scavengers rolled into the outpost, armed, rough, desperate. Elias knew the type. They stripped abandoned colonies for scrap, and anyone in their way was just another problem to eliminate. When the scavengers spotted Saleth and Irel, their sneers turned dark. "Didn't know you had company, old man," their leader drawled. "Alien company at that. We'll take them off your hands. Could fetch a good price." Elias's blood ran cold. He stepped in front of Saleth and the child, wrench in hand. "They're not going anywhere with you." The scavenger laughed. "You gonna stop us? Alone?" Elias gritted his teeth. He wasn't alone anymore. Saleth rose beside him, eyes blazing, and Irel, though still small and fragile, clutched at Elias's sleeve, refusing to let go. Something inside him ignited. With a roar, Elias swung the wrench. The fight was brutal. Metal against flesh, adrenaline against fear. Saleth fought too, with surprising strength, driving scavengers back with makeshift weapons. At last, bloodied and battered, the scavengers retreated, snarling threats as they vanished into the wasteland. Elias staggered, bruised but alive. Saleth caught his arm, steadying him. Their eyes met, human and Canary, bound not by blood but by choice. That night, as Irel slept peacefully, Saleth sat across from Elias by the fire. "You risked your life for us," she whispered. Elias shook his head.
"No."
"I fought for my family." Her breath caught, and tears shimmered in her eyes. Slowly, carefully, she reached across the firelight and placed her hand over his. "You are more a father to her than anyone could be," she said softly, "and more than I ever dared hope for." Elias looked at the sleeping child, then back at Saleth. His heart, once hardened by solitude, finally cracked open. "Then let's raise her together," he said. Saleth's tears fell freely, but this time they were tears of hope. For the first time in years, Elias felt like he belonged, not to an outpost, not to the ruins of the past, but to a family he had chosen. And in that moment, the abandoned colony was no longer just a graveyard of memories. It was home,